one in April and one this month. To start off, I'm Greg Cartred. I'm the Director of Permits and Inspections and the code official for the county. Um, Everybody sign in. You get your packet. In the packet is going to be the PowerPoint presentation with note areas. You're also going to have the residential permit plan requirements, the Washington County permits and inspections contact list, and also citizen access guide for permitting and doing it online. Um, I wanted to go just through. This is just informational. We can't give you every code change, so these are just the significant ones that that we went through and picked out. We have added from April the energy code because there were Mr. Terry went to and attended a energy code class that changed. So we've updated that, really highlighted the energy changes, especially for residential. Um, just wanted to kind of give you an idea. February the 27th, we had a public hearing um, held to adopt the 2021 codes. Basically, we've adopted the codes. They will become effective July 1, okay, of 2024. Now, want to explain, if you submit a permit application before July 1, you will fall up under the 2018 code. July 1 and beyond, you'll be under the 2021 codes for anything that you're going to be doing. Um, so, at this time in April, Mr. Frank, who is the retiring deputy code official, he did the one in April, and Mr. Darren is the new deputy code official who will be replacing Mr. Frank when he retires. And so I'm going to turn it over as one of welcoming Mr. Darren as the deputy code official. I'm going to turn it over to him for him to do the presentation today. Oh, I do want to say one thing. In your packet, when we get into residential electrical, we, the county, we deleted chapters 34 through 42 in the residential for electrical. We still show you slides from the specific changes using the IRC, but in it, we give you the section of the NEC that talks about it. But it had nice, pretty pictures, so we wanted to use those. So I will turn it over to Mr. Darren.
Hello, I'm Darren Barnett, the new deputy code official, or call me Frank Jr. if you want for now. But yeah, these all new changes that are coming to the 2021 code cycles, actually going through it, at least with the residential, the book is much better. They got better diagrams, better pictures. They go a little bit more detail explaining a little bit things. So, I'm always, with the contractors, whatever your specialty is, buy those code books so you can do your own self-reference to make sure you're doing things where you're supposed to be. So when we come back out, you have your own answers if we question. So the one thing is the definition of a townhouse. It revised the definition of a townhouse and a new definition of a townhouse dwelling unit, clarifying the appropriate use of terms. People they thought, well, it was 4 or 5 together, so it wasn't a single family dwelling. Townhomes are now a single family dwelling unit and a townhouse that expands from foundation to roof and that has a yard or public way with not less than 2 sides. So they try to clarify because it was confusing some people if that was a single family or not, even though there might be 4 or 5 connected together. So they just tried to clarify some language in the definition of a townhome. This is another big change, and we've seen this here recently, last year or two, with townhouse fires and them spreading back. So they tried to make it a little bit better here on the end wall. The common wall separating townhouses are permitted to terminate at the inside of exterior walls where the prescribed fire blocking is provided. And what they want to say is, now, let me see my little button. Before it was like this, the fire can get around, come back around the other unit. Now they want you to block here. So it just slows the fire spread down. Another big change, same thing as what we've seen at 4-foot separations, a lot of times not well enough to stop that penetration. And the same thing, they're just saying the prescribed fire resistance rated separation between two dwelling units in a single building is not affected by the presence of a lot line between the units. Same thing. They're two separate units, even though they're combined together. So it's just a little tweak on the saying you need proper separation between those units. Mechanical ventilation, this is one where you always had to have a window to open for natural ventilation. Now they're saying a local exhaust system is acceptable substitute for natural ventilation in kitchens. Just a little change, some places a little bit more stringent on that. We got to remember these are national, international codes, not really necessary for Washington County. So some of these places they lobby really to get these changes. This is one of those changes, is that you don't have to have an operable window in the kitchen for natural ventilation anymore. Another clarification that they did was for emergency escape and rescue openings require a 36-inch wide path to a public way. Operation requirements have been clarified. So what they're saying is we want when a person gets out to have a nice path to get out to the outside. Some jurisdictions, they don't require even a gate on the backside, which makes it hard to get back to a public way. So just another clarification for some people saying 36-inch path to get out so people can get away from the burning building. It's another combination where they try to really give a better description on what they're talking about with the 36-inch depth and the clearances. Emergency escape openings under decks, porches, and cantilevers require a path not less than 36 inches wide. Opening dimensions have been clarified. Once again, 36-inch minimum. You come out of your basement, bedroom window, you can at least crawl out. You don't have to do an army belly crawl to get out. And it helps the first responders to get in when you're on your gear and your pack. This is a change where they put this language in together in the same sections. It was always 2018 was in two different parts. Provision for window wells and area wells serving emergency escape and rescue openings have been merged into one section for area wells. Same thing, they're just trying to better define this language in that section of the code. Deck loads. Design is based on live load and snow loads. Wood frame decks shall be in accordance with this section. Decks shall be designed for the live load required in section R301.5 or the ground snow load indicated in table R301.2, whichever is greater. For decks using materials and conditions not prescribed in this section, refer to section R301. So when you go to table R301.2, it's going to be 40. So start using 40 as your calculation on that because that's greater than 30. Another little small change. Specific requirements for deck guards are added. Guards shall be constructed to meet the requirements of section R301.5 and R312 in this section. Once again, they were just trying to point you in a better direction in that language. This is a new section that they added, and they added it to make it easier to find because it wasn't in its own section before. Soffit section 704. This addition requirements for soffit material and installation are expanded and added under section 704. If you deal with this type of work, get in and look at this because they did make some changes in that. Actually makes it a little bit more easier to understand how to do it. Of course, they also refer a lot of times to the manufacturer instructions, which always goes over the building code. Another little clarification, rafter and ceiling joist bearings, section 802.6. Text is added to clarify when a ridge board connection is sufficient for bearing. This is one of the changes that is mentioned in the IRC, but is actually in the National Electrical Code. Electrical and communication outlet boxes installed in the building thermal envelope must be sealed, tested, and marked for compliance with the reference standards. Once again, we'll find this actually going to be in the National Electrical Code. But it just goes back to the whole energy compliance thing. They're trying to seal up the house a little bit better. Another one that's in here, but is actually referred to out of the National Electrical Code. Emergency service disconnect is required in a readily accessible outdoor location. It's going to be section 230.85 of NFPA 70. And another one that was nice for them to add was service surge protection devices. Surge protection device is now required at the service panel. And once again, it's going to be in section 230.67. So they're trying to put these protections in now, build a new home, so lightning strikes doesn't fry everything. Another one that's going to be in the electrical code, GFCI protection for 250 volt receptacle section 3902, which we've gotten out, but ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCI protection is required for up to 250 volt receptacles in the areas previously identified as required GFCI protection for 125 volt receptacles. The 20 amp limitation has been removed. Refer to 2020 NNC section 210.8. And actually, this is just a little blurb. Please go and read that section a little bit more in detail. It does go a little bit more in depth. It's just saying that's another little change that's been required in the electrical code. We adopted the International Swim Pool and Spa Code. This was not adopted previously before, so this is new to everybody. Some Maryland Code Amendment. Maryland law requires property owners to construct an adequate barrier around residential swimming pools, which includes any structure intended for swimming, recreational bathing, or other use that contains water over 24 inches in depth and is located at a single or two family dwelling. Your pool fencing must be 48 inches high. All pool access gates must be equipped with a self-locking device. Pools that are above ground and greater than 4 feet do not require additional pool fencing as long as the pool equipment is with a detachable ladder. If an above ground pool is 4 feet high, a barrier must be installed in order to bring the walls of the pool to an appropriate height. It is recommended by the Consumer Product Safety Commission of Maryland that pickets be spaced a maximum of 4 inches apart. Fences with horizontal pieces that are less than 45 inches apart must have horizontal pieces on the pole side of the fence. Is that the pool side of the fence? Is that that's the first time I called it. I've read that thing like 3 times in the last days. So, yeah. Yes.
Is that 4-inch requirement between pickets? Is that clear opening or center to center?
I believe they're saying it's clear opening, but I think if you go center to center, I mean, I think it's the same thing with your sphere. If you keep it with your same thing with your sphere, I think that's what they're asking for.
Yeah, I have a question as well. On the pools that they talk about, the pool covers that are the ones that you don't need a fence around, that are like a hard cover that come across, you're saying that's not acceptable anymore?
No, not in Washington County.
Every pool,
Every pool has to be fenced.
Actually, in the state of
In
Maryland.
the state of Maryland. Yeah, because that was in the code, it actually said if you've got an automatic cover, you don't need to fence in the state of Maryland and Washington County here across the board. That has been taken out. You still have to fence it.
okay,
And I think the reasoning is that they're not always being closed. So it doesn't get closed, you're still open. So I think this is just another added safety measure. So yeah. Significant changes to the International Building Code. Definition of a penthouse. The penthouse is now an enclosed, unoccupied rooftop structure used for sheltering mechanical and electrical equipment, tanks, elevators, and related machinery, stairways, and vertical shaft openings. So there's just a little bit of clarification. They added the language for the stairways coming up so you can calculate that in your plans. One thing we're seeing a lot of, these microbreweries, these things, so the codes have caught up. So use is not classified as Group H. The distilling of brewery or alcohol beverages, as well as the storage of beer, distilled spirits, and wine are now considered as conditions where the quantities of the beverages are not limited in a non-Group H occupancy, provided compliance with the Maryland Fire Code is achieved. Another thing that the codes are coming up on, these escape rooms and puzzle rooms, that's what they're calling them. So a new type of building use, the puzzle room is now regulated in a manner consistent with traditional special amusement areas. In addition, special means of egress requirements have been established that are specific only to such puzzle rooms. Puzzle room exiting, puzzle rooms exit shall comply with one of the following. Exiting in accordance with Chapter 10, an altered design approved by the building official. Exit shall open and readily available upon activation by automatic fire alarm system, automatic sprinkler system, and manual control at a constantly attended location. So same thing like your amusement parks, your haunted houses, alarm goes off, light comes on, electric locks unlocked, people get to go out. So same thing. Codes are catching up with the things that's been happening in our society. Cooking and ambulatory care facilities, just a little bit more clarification on their part, where domestic cooking facilities provided in ambulatory care facilities, conditions addressing installation of the cooking appliances have now been established to address any fire concerns. Same thing, appliances that turn off after an hour and 20 minutes, so hopefully you don't bake anything longer than that. It's going to mess up your cook time, but it's just a little bit more some safety precautions built into them, but more of a clarification. This is actually a pretty big change if you're into the fire aspect of it. Fire Bear is creating an exit passageway may now terminate at a fire resistance rated top lid instead of continuing to the underside of the roof slab. So before we always went up and we had our penetrations and fire call. Now they're saying you can rate this at 1 hour or 1 hour, 2 hour, 2 hour. That's acceptable. So that's actually that's a pretty big change on the fire protection side. But just same thing. Someone lobbied to get that changed in. So, which is another thing is ceiling radiation dampers. The use of static ceiling radiation dampers are now permitted where controls are used to shut down the airflow. Static dampers, fire dampers, and ceiling radiation dampers that are listed for use in static systems shall only be installed in heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems that are automatically shut down in the event of a fire. Same thing. Fire alarm goes off, your HVAC shut down. That's all we're saying now. You can use them if they're doing that. Back to the distilled spirits. Imposes a sprinkler requirement for both the manufacturing and bulk storage of distilled spirits. Once again, the codes are always years behind. Now they're catching up, so all new ones will be required to have the proper fire protection. Something we see a good bit now, fire command centers in groups F1 and S1. These buildings are big and huge. So a fire command center is now required in buildings housing group F1 or S1 occupancies where the building footprint is over 500 square feet in size. So they're going to make you have a little room. Hopefully most of your controls and everything to control that building will be right there. You can go in, have access to, if they have the, make sure everything's shut down. Just one location for the fire department, maintenance people to go to and meet and control the utilities, fire suppression, fire alarm. Another small change, single exit stories. For single exit stories, the travel distance limits are now based on the exit access travel distance as opposed to the common path of egress travel. It's just where your calculation of what you need to get out of the building has changed. I guess 1 foot candle power was not good enough, so we've gone up to 10-foot counters. The minimum illumination level for both exit and exit access stairways have been increased from 1 foot candle to 10-foot candle. So something else that over time didn't pan out that 1 foot candle was bright enough. So they are upping it. Locks and latches. The general locking provisions have been expanded to allow locked doors in the egress system when desired due to the clinical needs of care recipients or where exterior area egress back through the building. So just a change in the code where they're allowing different locks and different things. We now know they work better. We've been using them more. Alarm goes off, they unlock, people can still get out. So another minor change in dead-end corridors, specifically in hospitals. A corridor that does not serve patient rooms or treatment spaces is now allowed a maximum of 30-foot dead end. So if you got a dead end corridor, it's going from 20 feet to 30 feet. Ballasted roofs, just a change. All requirements applicable to the design and construction of ballasted low slope roofs are now contained in the ANSI/SPRI RP-4 standard. I don't know if anybody's read that standard, but it's probably nice to read right before you want to go to bed. Dead loads, they're trying to catch up with the solar panels being calculated. Dead loads at the roof level have been clarified as as fixed service equipment concentrated loads. So yeah, we're putting more and more stuff on the roof, so they're trying to calculate it better. They changed the language a little bit. Frost protection at required exits. This is something I like to see coming from the fireside background, because a lot of exits, that little 3x3, 4x4 slab heaves up and doesn't always open. So this is what they're trying to change. Frost protection for egress doors has been added to the foundation requirements. Frost protection at required exits. Frost protection shall be provided at exterior landings for all required exits with outward swinging doors. Frost protection shall only be required to the extent necessary to ensure the unobstructed opening of the required exit doors. So they try to fix it, but they didn't really fix it with clear language, because it's going to be up to interpretation of, do you have to do a frost footing? How thick does it have to be to get below? So this is probably going to be the ones that's going to be a lot of interpretation and some trial by error over the next couple of years to get it right. Another section, intermodal shipping containers. The use of intermodal shipping containers as buildings and structures is now recognized in the IBC, and criteria have been established to address the minimum safety requirements without duplicating existing code provisions. So there's actual sections, shipping containers. It's real easy to find. Just takes you there and it goes over some things. They had already made some adjustments in the IRC when it comes to tiny homes and using them. So they're just addressing them because they're becoming so popular now. Significant changes to the NEC, NFPA 70. GFIs is not required for the external central heating equipment. So I guess that was a requirement before. You always had to have a GFI. They changed it. There's more language in it. This is just a summary. So go in and read that section if you deal with that. But they just changed it where it wasn't necessary any longer. You can always be on the same circuit as well. Another significant change to the IPC is wheelchair drinking fountains. 50% of the required number of drinking fountains must be for standing persons, and the other 50% for persons who use wheelchairs. More than the minimum number of drinking fountains specified in section 410.3.1 is provided, 50% of the total number of drinking fountains provided shall comply with the requirements for persons who use a wheelchair. 50% of the total drinking fountains shall comply with the requirements of standing persons. So you probably already seen most of this anyway. You see one for handicap, one before, and you'll even see one for bottles. So this is something they put in code, but it's been kind of the normal standard here because architects are just drawing it anyway to make their life easier. Water heaters for emergency showers and eye wash stations. Basically, where hot and cold water is supplied to an emergency shower or eye wash station, the temperature of the hot water supply shall only be controlled by a temperature actuated mixing valve complying with ASSE 1070, where water supplied directly to an emergency shower or eye wash station from a water heater. The water heater shall comply with ASSE 1085. So just another little small change. Lower flow shower heads need to be compatible with the shower control mixing valve. The code requires the shower head flow rate to be limited to 2.5 gallons per minute. So I guess there were some of these new ones coming out. They weren't playing well with the mixing valve, so they were trying to clear up the language on that. This is probably a long time coming, but it's going to be nice for people in these multiple tenant buildings must have a main water shutoff valve for each tenant space. Multiple tenant buildings where a common water supply piping system is installed as supply other than 1 and 2 family dwellings, a main shutoff valve shall be provided for each tenant. So we know these older shopping complexes and buildings, one shutoff for the whole place. So if you're on the end, you're kind of screwed if the guy on the front has something going wrong. So here, this hopefully takes care of some of this on the new buildings, that each one will have their own cutoff. Another change, backflow device for low hazard boiler application. The code adds a recognized standard ASSE 1081 for a combination pressure regulator backflow preventer product for boilers. The potable supply to the boiler shall be equipped with a backflow preventer with an intermediate atmospheric vent complying with ASSE 1012 or a reduced pressure principal backflow preventer complying with ASSE 1013. Another little section where the code is connecting with, catching up with modern plumbing. Push fit fittings are now type of DWV fitting for ABS and PVC piping that, when used, will reduce installation time. Push fit joints shall conform to ASME A112.4.4 shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. So guys like me who aren't very good plumbers, these SharkBites make me a decent plumber now. Methods for restoring building sewer piping. Once again, language to try to catch up with some new innovations out there. The code recognizes two methods of restoring building sewer and building drain piping. So certification shall be provided in writing to the code official from the permit holder that the relining materials have been installed in accordance with the manufacturer's installation instructions, the applicable standards in this code. And Terry, Frank, and they are talking about this new liner that they can push in to the pipe from the internal side. That's what they're talking about. If you ever seen that, it's pretty neat. It helps with these old clay terracotta pipe. You don't have to dig it up, but if they can run camera down through, if it doesn't look too bad, it's just reline it and it just goes. So significant changes to the International Mechanical Code. Condensate discharge. Significant coverage is added to the code regarding the point of disposal of condensate. Such coverage addresses what has been common practices, acceptable and unacceptable in most jurisdictions. Condensate drains shall not directly connect to any plumbing drain, waste, or vent pipe. Condensate drains shall not discharge into a plumbing fixture other than a floor sink, floor drain, trench drain, mop sink, hub drain, standing pipe, or standpipe, utility sink, or laundry sink. Condensate drain connections to a lavatory Y branch tailpiece or to a bathtub overflow pipe should not be considered as discharging to a plumbing fixture, except where discharging to grade outdoors. The point of discharge of condensate drain shall be located within the same occupancy, tenant space, or dwelling unit as the source of the condensate. So, like I said, they're just trying to bring a little bit more clarification to the practice of condensate lines. So they're trying to show you the different ways of doing it now. This was never acceptable before, really. This is still the preferred methods if you can do it, but they're giving a little bit better guidance to with condensate. Termination location for dryer exhaust. New text was added to address the possibility of dryer exhaust air being reintroduced into a building interior. So it's basically exhaust duct termination shall be in accordance with the dryer manufacturer's installation instructions, where the manufacturer's instructions do not specify. Termination location, exhaust ducts shall terminate not less than 3 feet in any direction from openings into buildings, including openings in ventilated soffits. So basically 3 feet, as you've seen houses before, they're not always 3 feet away, so they're trying to do a little bit better clarification. And I guess, Jerry, if the window's not open, then if it's just a window, then the 3 foot does not apply. Pipe and duct installation within plenums. So here again, they're trying to correct some practices of days of old. The revision addresses the practice of using pipe insulation materials to protect piping that does not meet the required fire performance requirements. Fire and duct insulation contained within plenums, including installation of adhesives, shall have a flame index of not more than 25 and a smoke development index not more than 50 when tested in accordance with ASTM E84 or UL 723. So once again, people were wrapping the pipe because it didn't meet the FEMA index with insulation and paper that what doesn't meet it. So it's a change to catch the fire requirements. Wood burning residential hydronic heaters. This is a change for EPA. New wood burning residential hydronic heater shall be EPA certified. So they're just trying to push everything back to the EPA. A small change here, a little bit more clarification. Revised egress requirements for machinery rooms from the IBC were added to the IMC to prevent such requirements from being overlooked. Machinery rooms larger than 1,000 square feet in area shall have not less than 2 exits or exit access doorways, where 2 exit access doorways are required. One such doorway is permitted to be served by a fixed ladder or alternating tread. They took this language out of the IBC, put it in the IMC, so people would see that. It's just kind of remind them of doing that or having that requirement. The International Fuel Gas Code. Going back to the other one, condensating piping. The code was revised to address the concern over the terminations of concealed condensate drain lines, where it will not be apparent which drain is the normal condensate drain and which one is the secondary drain. Fuel burning appliances, the termination of concealed condensate piping shall be marked to indicate whether the piping is connected to the primary drain or to the secondary drain. What they don't do, they don't tell you how to mark them. So it's up to each individual person. They started with a good idea, but they didn't tell you how to make it consistent. So it may be someone takes a permanent marker and writes primary or it's secondary. They put it up in the attic and you can't tell anyway. So they tried to address it, but they kind of fell short a little bit on that one. Venting system terminal clearances. Change summary. Through the wall vent terminal clearance distance have been placed in a new table with a corresponding figure for ease of use. The clearances for through the wall direct vent and non-direct vent terminals shall be in accordance with table 503.8 and figure 503.8. Exception, the clearances in table 503.8 shall not apply to the combination air intake of a direct vent appliance. So they try to give a little bit more clarification as to where you need the clearances from. The table is actually a pretty good table. It gives a little bit better, it's easier to use, easier to read. So they have done better. Yes, sir.
That pretty much looks like every single manufacturer, but manufacturers, installation instructions still isn't right.
Yeah. But it's the same thing as we know with codes, manufacturer recommendations always trumps the code.
Right.
So they're trying to bring us in right. Yeah, it basically the people that always follow the code, it just makes it all in one place now. So each manufacturer, yeah. So yeah, so that's what they did that there, and it just makes it a little bit easier to read. It's help you find the answer a little bit more quicker. Another good change. New text addresses the junction appliances, vents, connectors in the required method where vent connectors are joined together. The connection shall be made with a T or Y fitting. So no more jerry rigging your hole in and wrapping it with a bunch of tape to try to get it to stay. So return air from mechanical room. New text clarifies the intent to prohibit pulling return air from the mechanical room, furnace plenums, and air ducts where a furnace is installed so that supply ducts carry air circulated by the furnace to areas outside of the space containing the furnace. The return air shall be handled by a duct sealed to the furnace casing and terminating outside of the space containing the furnace. Return air shall not be taken from the mechanical room containing the furnace. Once again, I think most of this is being done majority of the time anyway. Most of the manufacturers were doing this. Just clarification on their part to get everybody to do this. Significant changes to the IECC. So Terry, at any time you want to
You go ahead and do that.
speak up, and you're right. So basically required third-party compliance and testing documentation. We're going over total building performance for R405, index rating index R406, building thermal envelope air tightness testing, duct pressure testing, the mechanical ventilation testing. So updates, change, I guess the big change is duct testing, Terry.
Yeah. The whole duct, system needs testing.
Yeah.
Required.
So compliance and testing documents, approved third parties. So they're saying approved third parties are architect licensed by the Maryland State Board of Architects, an engineer licensed by the Maryland State Board of Professional Engineers, an entity issued credential relative to the subject matter being certified by a accreditation body. Think of your blower door test people now, same thing. They got to be certified in doing it and be licensed. Permitting and CO compliance reports, permitting compliance reports and CO compliance reports required by sections R405.3 and R406.7 shall be completed by approved third party and shall be generated from approved software. Submitted report shall include the original signature of the certified or licensed individual generating the report, the printed name, their applicable certification or license number issued by the accrediting or licensing entity, and date of signature. They've been doing this anyway, so it's just really clarifying that language. Then the building thermal envelope air leakage testing, duct pressure testing, and mechanical ventilation testing. All third-party reports submitted to the department shall be completed. Automated testing report produced from the testing equipment manufacturer. All submitted reports shall be include this certified or licensed individual signature, name, certification. So once again, they've been doing this anyway, just putting the language in there so catches everybody. So just the compliance pass, spelling it out a little bit more. Your prescriptive, they do all the thinking for you. Performance, you have to do a lot of your homework to get it done. So no major changes in there, Terry.
No, everything, the R values are the same
Right.
as they were. Nothing's changed from that.
Yeah, that's I didn't see anything changing, but you went to the meeting, so. Maryland Energy Code Amendments, residential modifications to the IRC for 1 and 2 family dwellings on prospective methods.
The biggest change that right now has happened for residential use is the under slab insulation has to be 4 foot now instead of 2 foot. You can go down 2 foot, in 2 foot, or go in 4 foot. And it's still the R10. Or rigid, yeah.
Rigid, yeah.
Do it double, right? Yes.
So air barrier testing, group R and I, where multiple dwellings / sleeping units or other occupied conditioned spaces are contained within one building thermal envelope. Each unit must be tested separately with an unguarded blower door test. The building air leakage is so weighted average all testing units results weighted by each testing unit's enclosure area. 8 or less units, test them all. 8 or more units, test the greater of 7 units or 20% of all units. Top floor unit, ground floor unit, unit with largest area. For each unit that exceeds maximum air leakage rate / fails, test 2 or more. So they're putting a little bit more clarification into that.
Those are more for apartment buildings.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right. Operable openings interlocking. Little change here. Large operable openings such as roll-up doors and windows must now be interlocked with the heating and cooling system. Time and temperature specific. Systems adjust within 10 minutes of opening. Operable opening. Controls. Raise cooling set point is to 90 degrees Fahrenheit and lower heating set point to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Controls shut off the system entirely when outdoor temperatures are below 90 degrees or above 55 degrees. So just thinking here, Permane Brothers have these kind of doors. They're just trying to get it where it's not continuously running. It just shuts off, bringing more computers in to make our life better or worse, depending on your views with computers and electronics. Fault detection and diagnostics. HVAC system serving a gross conditional floor area of more than 100,000 square feet must include FDD system. The system must include permanently installed sensors to ensure HVAC systems performance. They just go over how it kind of works with that. So the exemptions are R1 and R2 occupancies. Automatic receptacle control. at least 50% of covered receptacles and 25% of branch circuit feeders to be on automatically controlled receptacles. Multiple control options. All controlled receptacles must be permanently marked per NFPA 70. This is referenced in NFPA 70 C405.11. Energy monitoring applies to new buildings 25,000 square feet or larger, must be equipped to measure, monitor, record, and report energy consumption data. Except your R2 occupancy. Same thing. There's bringing electronics and computers to monitor, make sure it's running efficiently. Basements, a little bit more clarifications on uninhabitable space. Specific criteria must be met for a space to qualify as an unconditioned basement, reference code section R402.2.8. So basically, they want you just to seal everything up that's not in the basement and your subfloor, and then it'll keep that unconditioned space. Mechanical ventilation system. Each dwelling is required to have a minimum mechanical ventilation rate per IRC section M1505. New provisions for testing not only the whole house ventilation referenced in the IRC, but only spot ventilation such as bathroom fans. Kitchen range hoods with ducts 6 inches or larger in diameter are exempt from the requirement. So once again, this is a section, if you deal with it, go in and read and look at, because they did do some changes there on the figures. So your air exchanges, they actually made the chart, the table, a little bit easier to read and understand. So if you deal with that, really get in there and look at that. Exterior lighting. Connected exterior lighting must comply with the commercial requirements for exterior lighting power and C405.5. Your exceptions to attached 1 and 2 family dwellings, townhouses, solar power lamps not connected to any electrical service, luminaries controlled by a motion sensor, lamps and luminaries that comply with section R404.1. So basically trying to control lighting, how much you can use and how it should be on. So interior lighting controls required for all permanently installed lighting fixtures, exceptions are your bathrooms, hallways, exterior lighting fixtures, and lighting designed for safety and security. So going to be bringing in more technology to shut lights off and control lighting. Kind of redundant. Exterior lighting controls, totally permanently installed exterior lighting power greater than 30 watts, manual on and off switch, exception lighting serving multiple dwelling units. Daylight sensor overrides must reset after 24 hours. So you can have an override for 24 hours and you have to reset it. So just trying to make sure it's just goes off when it is, so it's not burning when it shouldn't be burning. And of course, we have local amendments to all of our code books. So questions and answers. Yes, sir.
Really electrical. I know Jefferson County went to where they went, yeah, doing the kitchen, they went to square footage on the island. Certain over square footage, I think it's over 36, and there's, you still got countertop in there, they were required to put a pop-up outlet in. Anything about that here?
I don't think it stays the same. Yeah.
Yeah, because they should be in the 2020 NFPA as well, right? I think West Virginia's in the 2020 NFPA. If not, they will be in July because their power code gets updated.
Shepherdstown, the inspector came out there, obviously private inspectors, and Shepherdstown didn't need it, but they came anyway. He said the whole idea of the core is a 2-foot core, so if you do have overhang, then that is obsolete. So you can't use that wall, you can't put it out. You only have 2 walls, because most of the time, Farley Island is nothing but doors and drawers, so it leaves you your 2 ends. So if it was over 36 square feet, that's what a outlet for service, you need to put a pop-up in there. But my thing was, so okay, I have a customer who spends $12,000 on the custom branded top, and I'm gonna have to tell them that they need to put a hole in the middle of it. It's not gonna fly. But so I don't have to worry about that at all.
Well, I would refer to it. I mean, I would refer to the code book. I'm like Terry, I would have to read that section to see what it says.
Okay.
Yeah. Without not reading it right now, I hate to say yes or no, because,
I get it.
yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can we review, the R value requirements for roofs a little bit? It was my understanding that it was supposed to be R60 in for residential.
And in Maryland, they actually kept, they had a group get together before the legislature and actually kept it, at 49 in the ceiling. The only thing that's really changed in the energy code itself is all your ducts now have to be insulated. Even if they go through, I mean, especially when they go through an unconditioned space, they have to be insulated, and it even includes your dryer vent.
So all ductwork has to be insulated.
Yeah, they can't even, you used to be able to cover your ductwork in the roof ceiling insulation. You can't do that anymore. It has to be insulated separately. Then you can still cover with blown insulation.
You can wrap them though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
There wasn't a change in the sidewall insulation too for R value, just as the ceiling was changed.
no, it stays.
When they're continuous.
You can do that. There is two different types. You can still do the R20, or you can do the R15 and do a continuous 5 on the outside.
That's always been an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, for some reason I've read somewhere that it increased where I'd have to either do an 8-inch wall or do that plus, insulation.
Yeah, no, we actually Maryland stayed with the 2018 with the
Okay.
R20. And the
What I saw was just an overall ACC, Maryland adopted their own.
Maryland has some amendment to the.
So that's in the amendments then. Okay, gotcha.
Any more questions? Like I said, they're all referencing each code book and then the state amendments and the county amendments. So any questions, give us a call. We're always there to answer questions. Isn't that right, Frank?
Only for 48 days,
45.
45.
Very hard to find.
All right.
Yeah. The best thing I can tell you, I can give you one of my cards
Okay.
and I can I'll get an email to you.
Okay.
But the amendments for
Ms. Becky,
and the energy.
is the
code-
amendments on our website or county or
The
legal
energy code
website?
amendments, you have.
No, on ours. Okay.
There's a table in there that you have to choose from to acquire at least 6% of, energy upgrades. Your, light bulb efficacy, your appliances, Energy Star appliances, things like that. But there's a whole list in there. I can give you my business card.
Please.
I'll email to you.
Thank you very much.
Was
And
your
just-
question the local amendments? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, they can be looking.
Okay.
Yeah, you can actually go, it's not on, if you go to the county website, it's not on the permit and inspections website as of yet. But you can go to the county attorney's website and local amendments are on that website. Or you can email any of us. You've got our contact information in your packet. You can email us and we can just email you a copy of all the local amendments.
There was a change to the inspection standard in 211. And it was basically just in reference towards what amount of leaves are inspected as far as whether it's the homeowner's decision or if we have to inspect the whole thing. Which standard exactly are we wanting to be inspected towards, IRC, the 8-11?
It's a very good question.
There's minor differences between like construction standards between the 211 and the IRC. But
Does the IRC reference the 211?
I was getting ready to say the same thing as
to my understanding, the NFPA 211 was adopted by Maryland, but that is more of, it's not really a construction standard all the time. Sometimes it's an inspection standard. So the inspection standard says to fall back on whatever the building standard is. In this case, would be IRC 2021 now. But there is no standard for how to inspect in the IRC.
And and basically, if you are doing a relining yourself in our county, we have a form that you have to self-certify. You install the lining, correctly. So of course, you probably know that you've done it here in the
Yeah.
county. So that's how our county handles it. But as far as, the reference, it probably does not reference the 211 in the IRC. It probably would.
We're looking at it now.
Yeah.
too,
It
I
might,
don't think it does.
yeah, I don't think it does.
The thing about it is, it's like, so the problem that I come across is somebody goes into a house, they reline a system. That firebox had wood supporting the hard part extension, it would run firebox.
Yep.
So the only solution would have been rebuild the firebox to get clearances, or there are, you will listed products like retrofits that you can install that will allow those clearances to be nullified like a line meter. The only issue in certain aspects of that is, whether somebody followed the inspection standard properly. So if you follow, the NFPA 211, then you have to do a level 2 inspection to be able to determine serviceability and system.
And that's one of the reasons why we have the contractor self-certify.
For an installation, correct?
Correct.
But if somebody goes out to do an inspection and then do repairs off of that inspection, or I guess the service was the inspection, how to go about performing that inspection off of which standard?
We, as a county, as far as I know, since I've been here, if you do a lining itself, we don't go back out and inspect.
Right.
We just accept your certification as, that inspection and it was done correctly.
Okay, so if I go back behind somebody, because I have this direct situation like this, where I go back behind somebody, they've done a reline, they've done it correct. Now what's the customer to do? What am I supposed to do? How's that supposed to progress?
Well, at that point, we have to go back and see if there was a permit for that and see if.
Probably not.
That's there would become the issue. You go back and see if the permit was pulled for that, and if they self-certified that they've done it correctly, then we could go back and
Yeah,
to the
so,
contract.
so in the chapter 24 fuel gas, chimney shall be lined in accordance with NFPA 211. I didn't see that in the other section.
I've never been around 24 really. I usually stick in 10.
Well, that's what sent me back to 10.
Yeah.
Too. But yeah, I just,
Well, if it says that there, then the relining basically is all the relining is gonna fall back onto the manufacturer's installation instructions. But the lining itself doesn't pertain to the firebox's clearances. So the actual thing supporting the firebox, and in this particular case, you could walk into the basement, look straight up, and you can see that the wood, it's actually a joist.
yeah.
So it's not even like you can remove it easily. It's definitely gonna be a structural issue.
This is an under, it says masonry heater clearance, much more clear, cannot be placed within 36 inches of the outside surface of masonry heater in accordance with NFPA 211.
Masonry heater's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the only two references with 211 when it's when the sentence is back. Because the other parts it was talking about, UL listings and everything, so, yeah, so.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're sticking to 211, you're doing yourself a good service to follow that standard, because at least you have a standard you're following to, and it should have a form in there to help you for your inspection list and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of informed by the program that I use. But it's really just something that I've had a few, not specifically in the state, but in other states, and this one is particularly here in Washington County, where it was just easy to sell somebody a liner, but not proper repairs.
Right.
And that's where they come to me like, hey, I needed a sweep. I have the inspection and the inspection process. And like,
Yes.
this is problem.
And then that's, if you would call us and see if there was a permit pool.
So that's what I would do then. Okay.
If there's a permit pool for that, and they self-certified that it was done correctly,
Mhm.
then the owners would have, just cause, or, they would have a case saying, that this guy, did, according to the manufacturer, that he self-certified it correctly. And then, at that point, it's not done correctly by 211, then we'll have something to fall back.
So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
So in that case, though, they would only be falling back on did they follow manufacturer's installation instructions for the liner. That doesn't pertain to the fire hose.
No, it pertains to the chimney itself.
That would, but then that would fall into the inspection standard.
Yep.
In which case, if they say that they're not following the NFPA 211 inspection standard, I need to know that they have to follow that. That's where I'm following, because they don't do the full inspection where they go, I mean, you should be going underneath the chimney or firebox and looking up underneath it there. But if they're not doing that, they say, well, I never saw that, so I didn't know that it needed to have that.
So that's something we should probably put, maybe, I could talk to the code official. So, and maybe get that self-certification. I don't know what it reads right now, can't off the top of my head, but if it doesn't read that, then that's probably something we should change.
So, and this is kind of drastic, but I do know of a way that some other areas have handled this. And it is to require level 2 inspection for home sales.
Okay.
In which case it's NFPA 211 inspection where they're checking everything that's supposed to be checked, running a camera through to make sure that that's too. And at least in that part, it's getting handled from there. But other than that, maybe requiring a level 2 inspection,
And a home inspection, we wouldn't have anything to do with it. Okay. That would only come into play for a liner itself. And then we would have to, like I said, speak with Greg regarding possibly changing that form to require a level 2 or a 211, installation.
if there's anything I can do to help you, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just because it's overlooked all the time.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those crazy well.
Mhm.
I have to go through that, yeah, you're right.
We're right at the top, that's man.
I think he found his answer real quick.
Yeah.
I think he found your answer about the countertop.
Okay,
What, say again, what you had to do?
so if the square foot is over 36 square foot on like an island, and it wasn't accessible from that side, like one outlet covers 36 square feet. So if you can't get it in the mid, like, so here's for example, so you got 36 and 36. You got this piece here in the middle. This is an overhang, this is the front of the island. So obviously you're not gonna have any outlets on the front. This is no good because of the overhang, so you got 2 spots. So this one here on this end services this 36. This one here services this 36.
And now you have.
Now you have,
You gotta have one in the middle. Is that what you're saying?
that's what they're saying. So but then it comes down to a calculation, or you're gonna make your inspectors do a calculation on the field about square footage, and because then there is some gray area in there as well, because there can be overlays on the 36 square feet. There can be overlays, but you can still have a void.
Yeah.
But if there's a certain amount of overlap, then it's okay to have that void. So I was like, my gosh, I mean, this is getting pretty difficult to make sense of. And I still go back to a $12,000 countertop, and my customer being like, there's no way that you're putting a hole in it. So the only reason I say is because this happened in Jefferson County. I didn't know where we were on it. But I think since then Jefferson County has gotten rid of it. I'm not sure.
The other challenge is that most islands that are large like that have a sink in the middle of that. That's where the sink is. But you don't want the outlet anyway.
Well, yeah, then you get into VFI and your water and, but what was your question, another question?
Yeah, question regarding one of your initial slides on the fire blocking on the exterior wall between townhouses. So I presume that there are updated UL, 347 law section details that have been updated. Is that correct?
That I cannot tell you. Because I haven't been on the UL for a while. I can go on there and look.
Okay.
But I'm gonna guess, probably say it's probably not in there.
Right.
It's not gonna be part of the listing. It's gonna be part of.
Are you reading it?
What the IRC is gonna put in there to prevent the fire from jumping from one context to the other.
So this is something we're gonna,
Instead of requiring that separation wall go all the way to the inside of the exterior sheathing that allows you to stop at the inside drywall with blocking. So this is just an additional detail, I think.
no, I got you.
To prevent you, you go all the way out to the inside of that exterior sheathing. Okay. So this is a little easier if you put in 2x4 block or 2x blocking in there. So the drywall is up against the blocking, then you can this would prevent it.
Because there is, as I recall, 4 inches, 4 inches of what Typex drywall separating the units. Would that carry through to the back of the front wall?
Well,
On the exterior wall?
if they're using a UL 347, you're using quarter.
Yeah,
it goes all the way to the.
yeah.
So you're gonna have,
You got nine.
between, but that what's gonna go all the way out.
So what I'm saying is,
Yes.
Yeah, because you're gonna have your townhouses are both in, yeah. So
Yeah,
they're gonna go all the way out to the very end.
Terry with that.
So that's where your floorboards is not, and then that goes from all the way from your
exactly.
foundation all the way to.
But you were saying,
So basically, that side covers flush conditions, not all second, and we're rarely gonna have flush conditions.
Correct.
It's very rare.
And I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, let's let Terry look at it also.
Yeah, but we have that condition below. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something, you know.
Yeah, it was probably more regional.
Yeah.
Same thing is because if you go on that and then your window's gotta be, I mean,
Yeah.
so that's why they like to
The condition you're
offset.
discussing is moved, it's offset.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
So Terry,
Yeah.
I'm sure Darren and I looked at this too. This is what he's talking about. This is you. Where it says on the island, which when you touch for a house, you try to first, breaking it up. A receptacle outlet shall be provided for every additional expression there for the county top order.
And Mr. Gator is going to say yes.
I think that might need to be an amendment.
I agree. I would want one of my county.
Mr. Gator.
What is the code number on that?
It's NFC,
210.52C2.
Mr.
All right.
Gator is doing the same thing.
Hold on, I'll bring it to you.
Okay, I'll let him probably dealt with him. And he probably.
Thank you.
He's probably on the good side,
Yeah. no problem.
but Mr. Gator is very, very, when it comes to.
Well, actually, the last time we did him was very,
You know,
yeah, so. To answer that,
Okay.
that scenario,
it's gonna have to say yes.
I have to say,
can I ask you guys, how many of you guys would like to hold on your counter?
I would not
Thanks.
personally.
But I can tell you, if you speak with Mr. Gabriel, he will probably come up with a solution not to have to do.
Well, and there is a solution. There is. You can put filler, I can put a 3-inch filler between cabinets, but you change the design of the cabinets, you're adding, if they don't have the space for the 3-inch filler to put an outlet in, you have, like, yeah, I mean, this one right here, I mean, it's like everybody. It's without kitchen area.
It's always a
Take
question.
basic, yeah, sure, I mean, it covers a big island, but There's a lot, islands are getting very fun.
I don't mean just-
Well, this isn't going to be an issue for the small. Put one that's always a special.
Way down.
Now you're.
You have another thing there? Garbage is there. There's that being about cutting holes. Well,
I know why.
There's liability. So,
And that's where.
same thing.
I'll speak to Gator regarding that and see.
Like that also.
What is gonna come up with. He's gonna hold you to that.
And having-
Uh,
Oh, I just water.
Huge deal.
Email me.
Like.
We're gonna take a piece of our.
Sink in.
You know, I did. What else? Sign.
I will.
But.
Yeah.
That's-
Worry about that.
I mean, that's just.
They say-
a fact.
They're 100%.
All right, Kenny,